And welcome into week 3 as we're rocking into the NFC this time. We did the AFC yesterday. It is myself, Jesse Moeller, aka J Moeller 05, with Jeremy Schulman, Mr. FF Rebel. How you doing today, Jeremy?
Yeah, hanging out, chilling, trying to find ways to trade in all of my leagues, but it's also barely week 3. It feels a little too early. So we're getting in there. We're trying to figure it out. But, at the moment, we're just buying a ton of Andy Dalton with fab
Oh,
dollars.
yes.
And,
That's beautiful.
that should tell you exactly, spending 50% on Andy Dalton in a lot of leagues, that should tell you exactly where some of my teams are at this early stage.
Oh, yeah, I have a team that has one quarterback, Kirk Cousins, and a bunch of guys that are benched or injured or whatever. So I was streaming Superflex, and this Dynasty League, and Andy Dalton was available, and it was $1,000. I was like $600 straight on Andy Dalton. I was like, yeah, I need a quarterback. So yeah, that tells you I feel that. A few of those teams, I'm like, oh, this team's competing. All right, this is gonna be fun. So yeah, that's where we're at with that. It's already week 3, but it feels like we're week 14. So it's been the fastest 2 weeks of all time. As we jump into week 3, should we just hop into these games? See what we talk about them?
Yeah.
Let's jump into the Denver Tampa game. And let's talk about that. So we have a fun team in Tampa playing against a not so fun team, the Denver Broncos. Interestingly enough, I think for me, what I'm looking at is how Tampa attacks Denver, because they've given the least amount of fantasy points to wide receivers. And against running backs, they've been more okay. So I'm curious how that affects them with their super inept run game. But overall, kind of what are you looking at from the quarterbacks? We'll start from there. Between Mr. Baker Mayfield and our boy Bo Nix, how are they looking for you?
Yeah, it's super interesting because the Broncos, they played the Seahawks in week 1. Not sure, we saw what the Seahawks did in week 2. They kind of had their coming out party. Not sure if they needed a week to ramp up or what happened there in that game, but we do know that the Denver defense is pretty good against the pass. We know they have Patrick Surtain. We know their back end and their safeties have always been pretty good. So good that his name is failing me now, but they actually cut their starting safety. Was it Simmons from a year ago because they felt so strong about their back end. And so far that's holding up. So I really don't love Baker Mayfield in this matchup. That said, the rest of the Denver team is not that good. I mean, they were okay, kind of tracking Justin Fields down, but Baker's been so explosive. It's really hard to sit him at this time. I think you have to temper expectations, but I will fire up Baker this week, even if he's not going to ball out like he did in week 1.
Where do you have him ranked? Is it like QB 15 or so in that range?
That sounds about right. I may be slightly higher on him only because it's a weird week.
Mm-hmm.
I do have him above Geno Smith, who gets a nice Miami matchup. So I do have him QB 12 at the moment. But there's a group of guys there. Geno, Dak, Jaden Daniels, I have a bit lower this week. All of those guys I could see doing better than Baker. So I'd say anywhere from 12 to 15 makes a lot of sense.
And yeah, I think that's a pretty solid spot to have him. I think if you have him in one QB leagues, you're okay with it. And on the flip side of Bo Nix, if you have any interest in starting Bo Nix this week, are you just leave him on the bench, even in Superflex leagues?
No, there's never any interest in starting Bo Nix. There's never any conversation. I somehow and felt concerned about it when I made the deal, but just before the season started, the Bo Nix hype was out of control. I sent him in a first for Dak Prescott on a whim. That trade was accepted. I was lucky because right now it feels bad to be holding the Bo Nix bag. So no, I can't start Bo Nix anywhere, no matter what.
Yeah, I'd say it's becoming crystal clear that Drew Brees was the cog behind that machine in New Orleans and not so much Sean Payton. I think that's a good time for us to transition to these running backs and talk about the motley crew of running backs they have in Denver and just how bad it's been for those guys, even though we were kind of excited for both Javonte and Jaleel. And on the flip side, Rachaad White's still getting the work. He's still being that volume workhorse with Bucky kind of as a handcuff role. How are you treating the running backs in this game? Are you bullish on Rachaad against this Denver defense? Or are you a little bit worried?
No, I'm worried, and mostly because of whatever is happening with White and his injury situation. We know that he's a bit banged up. He's likely to play, I think, at this stage. So it's not really a concern of him missing the game. I don't think that he's going to be worked in much less than normal. So I'm not so concerned about Bucky taking touches because of injury. I'm just concerned of Bucky taking touches simply because Rachaad White is not good at the running back position. We know he's lived off of volume against the Denver front. That's just okay. I think he can get there, but it's going to depend on who Baker decides to throw the ball to, whether it's Mike Evans. We know it's going to be Chris Godwin or Rachaad White this week. So I don't love it. I mean, Javonte, like you said, he's fine. He's just not getting the volume we like to see, although it was there in the passing game for him last week. So it's a concern for these guys, but I think I would probably have White and Javonte kind of close to each other. I have to check my rankings. That is Zamir. So that he
Not
is
the one,
first. Yeah, I can't Rashad.
Thanks for
Which
joining
means
us,
he's
Jamie.
probably too high. Which means he's probably too high.
Might
But,
be a
oh yeah,
little-
no,
might be a
he's
little-
actually he's below Zamir. So I have him 25. They're back to back. Because Rashad 25 and Javonte 26 this week. I just don't like the matchups here.
Yeah, that's completely fair. I get it. I think the one thing with Rachaad White is he dealt with injury last week, so it's kind of a little bit of fool's gold with like how they played them. But he came back, played that game. It looks like he's gonna be healthy. The one thing that I'm taking away from these running backs, and we can hit on this question here in a second, is I'm not playing Jaleel anywhere. Like he got 0 targets in week 2, and his usage just plummeted. And overall, like that backfield, which looked like it was going to be a gold mine for fantasy, is just non-existent. So I don't really know. You could do Javonte. I think you can, but overall, I'm not super into it. And this week, are you bullish enough on Carr to start him versus Philly, or are you still rolling with AR versus Chicago?
This is a really depressing question because I was so high on A-Rich this season. I have Derek Carr 10 and Anthony Richardson 11 this week. So if you're going by my rankings, I'm going with Derek Carr. The matchup is juicy. Philly has not fixed their back end, at least early in the season. So I got Carr barely above Richardson. We know he has a floor, but Carr probably the better ceiling this week.
Yeah, if you want to ride the lightning that is Derek Carr in that offense, like you can go for it. I have Richardson one spot ahead of him. It's 9 and 10, but like yeah, I'm there with you. I don't think there's a bad answer because just how valuable Richardson in the fantasy points he produces. Like he could be bad and give you 25 points. Like that's in his range of outcomes. There's no possible chance for Derek Carr in that scenario. Let's kind of flip to the wide receivers in this game. How are you treating the wide receivers? Cortland Sutton, I put out a tweet, is the wide receiver 6 in expected points. Clearly, like well below that in points per game. Do you have Godwin as it's just a little bit multiplied by 10. Do you have Godwin as the highest guy, or is it Evans the highest guy for this week?
I must. I have Evans really high this week though. He's 11. I have to look at Godwin. I haven't really parsed through these guys right now. Godwin sitting at 17 feels too low. We know Evans is likely going to see a lot more Surtain. We know Godwin is playing from the slot. Those guys need to be closer. I might move Evans down actually, but it's really ugly because you got Tyreek Hill. You got Malik Neighbors in a really tough matchup. So I don't think he's going to see 18 targets this week, even though he'll be good. So yeah, it's just really muddy there in the wide receiver 2 range. But I think Evans and Godwin, once we get closer to Sunday, will be a lot closer together. You can play both these guys though.
Yes, 100%. I think you should fire them both up. I think I have them flipped in rankings. I have Godwin at 10, Evans at like 16. Just based on your point of the matchup. And Godwin has the best role in fantasy through 2 weeks for like wide receivers. Like it's a gold mine. So you should be confidently starting these two guys. Are you interested in playing any other wide receiver, including Cortland Sutton for the Broncos? Or are you just saying no?
No. It was Devon Vele in week 1, if I'm pronouncing that right. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was Josh Reynolds in week 2. These guys are, Reynolds is a journeyman. Vele came out as 26-year-old rookie. I mean, it's just pretty ridiculous who they're rolling out there. And they can't find space for Troy Franklin, which is a problem for the Denver Broncos and for Troy Franklin. So I don't know what the hell to do here. Yeah, Cortland Sutton should have more points, but he doesn't. We saw this last year. Cortland Sutton, to be viable in fantasy, needs to score a touchdown. So no, I don't want to play any of them.
And then let's talk about these tight ends. And I don't even really want to talk about Otten because he's just the routes run god and does nothing with them. He's completely unvaluable. I think you could talk yourself into Dulcich. Like the role is there. It's man, you gotta trust Bo Nix. So if you're really willing to stream it, I think you can. But overall, like I think you should be able to find a better tight end to stream somewhere this week, just because we'll see how it goes. But like they have some good safeties in against them this week, so I'm curious to see how that matchup goes overall. But yeah, just a hard pass with that. It's rough.
The one thing I'll say about Tampa is they've had some injury to the linebacking core and to the secondary, so that's just something to keep in mind. Dulcich could have a better than average game, but an average game for Dulcich hasn't really been exciting. You're probably benching him. So don't worry
Yeah,
about it.
that's safe to say. Let's go to a little bit more fun game with two of the better offenses in the NFL so far. Houston traveling to Minnesota. We have the quarterback situations. Sam Darnold's doing enough to keep you relevant in superflex leagues, and you could stream him in matchups. Houston's been decent against quarterback play this week, and then we have CJ Stroud, the eternal just passing king, who is a guy you want everywhere. Where do you have these guys ranked, and are you playing Darnold this week, or are you more considering him as like a bench option?
Yeah. Let me start with CJ Stroud because I have him lower than usual. That Minnesota defense has been pretty good through 2 weeks. I have him down at 7, and we just know it that the rushing upside isn't there for him. So guys like Lamar and Murray and Hurts are above him for me this week. But yeah, he's going to ball out like he balls out every week. So CJ Stroud is going to be an awesome quarterback. This team should win by 2 touchdowns. We'll see how it goes on the ground with Mixon a little banged up. But yeah, Stroud for me is locked in. The real question I have and that you have here is Sam Darnold. Right now, he's my QB 17. I want to move him up. I am resisting the urge. I am right now, I have Jaden Daniels as my QB 15. And that is a conversation I'm having with myself in a league. Do I start Sam Darnold over Jaden Daniels? And I am right now, Darnold is in the lead and in my lineup locked in. It's tough. Jaden Daniels, we know he's got the rushing floor, but against the Cincinnati secondary, I don't know. I think I'm gonna go Darnold.
Right. I mean, he has Justin Jefferson. He's Justin Jefferson. It's good. Like they do have Derek Stingley, which is one of the better corners. And if you watched him against DJ Moore last week, he absolutely erased DJ Moore. Like DJ Moore did not stand a chance, which shows you how good Stingley is. But this is a whole nother level of wide receiver we're talking about. I don't know if he's going to shadow. Like I'm assuming he would because you kind of need to with Justin Jefferson. But interesting enough, Leslie Frazier's defense does they do a lot of gimmicky stuff, which catches quarterbacks by surprise. But it's CJ Stroud. He's one of the smart quarterbacks. We don't know how well it's going to work. So yeah, like I think you could play Darnold. It's a top 8 matchup. Like fire him up, see how it goes. Yeah. I don't know if I'm playing over Daniels. I think that's a little bit spicy just based on the rushing, that he has. But I get it. Like it's the KOC offense, man. It prints money. It is what it is.
100%.
Let's talk about these running backs a little bit. How are you viewing the running back situation with Mixon kind of dealing with an injury? And on the flip side for the Vikings, with Jones also dealing with an injury, are you elevating either one of the backups, like Chandler, or are we doing anything with Akers in those games? Are you kind of waiting and seeing TBD how it plays out the rest of the week?
Yeah, I guess I'm a little bit biased here because Ty Chandler was one of my late round grabs and stashes everywhere. So I haven't necessarily felt comfortable with Aaron Jones, except when I saw him in weeks 1 and 2, he looked awesome. So, if he's out with injury, I think Ty Chandler running for 82 yards last week out of nowhere in like a quarter and a half is, I will plug Ty Chandler in pretty easily. But I do have Aaron Jones below Mixon if he plays, right? But the problem is Mixon is unlikely to play. It seems like the team, the words that I'm seeing in the report are the team is holding out hope that Mixon can play in week 3, which doesn't sound good. So if it's Cam Akers or Damon Pierce or whoever they're going to roll out there, I think it's just going to be more passing volume. So I will pass on those guys. So right now it's Mixon Jones. It would be Jones above whoever a backup is. It would be Ty Chandler over whoever a backup is in Houston.
Yeah, I think for kind of that offense, you see how just like good it is at supporting running backs. I don't mind firing up whoever the back, because there's also other guys who are also dealing with injury. Like it's really kind of similar. Not Akers isn't going to see all the workload Mixon will, but I think he could be a flex, like wide or RB2 with flex range. I think there's upside for that offense. Yeah, and it's like you just have to watch Jones and watch it and see how it goes. So I just watch it up until Sunday, and if they're both healthy, you're going to fire up Jones. You're going to fire up Mixon. I'm with you, he's higher. Let's talk about Justin Jefferson. How high is it too high to rank Justin Jefferson this week? Like it feels like he's just top 3 wide receiver every week, right? Like how high can we rank him? And then on the flip side, Nico Collins looks like one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. How high are you ranking Nico Collins with these guys this week?
I'm struggling to rank Justin Jefferson number 1. I currently have him number 2. It really depends if Jamar Chase is going to go nuclear or not against that atrocious Washington secondary there. But yeah, I have Justin Jefferson at 2, potentially 1 by the time Sunday rolls around. You're like locking him into lineups. It doesn't matter. With respect, Justin Jefferson is not Garrett Wilson, as he told us last week and then showed us last week. The man backs it up. There's no question there. But to your question about Nico Collins, Nico is my wide receiver 5 this week ahead of Rashee Rice. Nico Collins has looked phenomenal. We knew the talent was there. We were concerned about the volume and the role. There is no concern about the volume these days. He is locked in. I think our concern is for Tank Dell and if he can get enough meaningful targets over Steph Diggs, but those two are in competition with each other. Nico is on an island, just ready to receive all the targets that Stroud's willing to throw to him every single week. So lock him in.
Yeah. I think it's an interesting discussion between Dell and like Diggs and how you want to view those guys. I think they're both like, wide receiver 2s, wide receiver 3 in that range. I think I have them 25-30. I always chase the upside of Dell just because he has the ADOT. But yeah, you could go Diggs, like his role. It's very similar how they're all used. Just Nico's massively outperforming his expectation, which he's a really good wide receiver. That's probably going to happen week in and week out. Now, if we have no Addison, we have no other guys, where are you ranking Naylor, who was actually surprisingly good last week for the Vikings?
It was good. Yeah, Naylor's good, and they don't really have a tight end option there. And Ty Chandler isn't necessarily an amazing receiver out of the backfield. So Naylor's really interesting, especially if Aaron Jones is out of this game or limited. Even if he's not, I think Naylor's probably a back end wide receiver 3. I haven't gotten that far in my rankings, but he'll definitely be above the likes of he'll be around the Greg Dortch, Darnell Mooney prayer shots that I might throw into my lineup, like a Juwan Jennings as well. It's kind of another one in there. So we're talking about like high 40s, low 50s, I'd say, on the week.
Yeah. It's funny you say that because I have him 55. I have Darnell Mooney 56 this week. So you nailed those ones. I know that.
Yeah.
Looking at the tight ends, are you doing anything with the Vikings, or are you just leaving it alone? And then how high do you have the Texans tight end ranked this week?
Yeah, I don't even know if Tanyan's been running routes. I don't even know if he's been out there. We have Johnny Munt. Like, who cares, right? No, the Vikings, I'm not touching these guys. I wouldn't be surprised if you told me a third tight end has more targets than those two. On the other side, Dalton Schultz. Schultz, I think, is a little banged up as well. I'm not sure. He is listed as questionable. I don't know if it's that big of a deal, but it's not that big of a deal for me because I will not be starting him anywhere. I don't want anything to do with either of these guys.
Yeah, they fall into that kind of touchdown and prayer, like late teens tight end rankings with the Green Bay tight ends, like all those guys. You kind of you need a touchdown, whoever you're getting out of that group, because that's the only way they really succeed with all the options. For you, I know my answer to this question. Do you have Bowers above Kelsey rest of the season?
Now I do. Yes. It only took 2 weeks, but Travis Kelce is complete dust and Brock Bowers is the new hotness. No, it's not that serious. Kelce probably turns it around with no Isaiah Pacheco in the mix anymore. That said, Brock Bowers is just getting all the targets that can be fed to him. We need to give more props to Gardner Minshew for supporting multiple options in the passing game. He's a functional, serviceable NFL quarterback, and that does lead to fantasy production for multiple guys if those guys are really good. And Devonta Adams and Brock Bowers are really good. So I have Bowers over Kelce.
Props to Luke Getsy. We expect this team to be run heavy. They have the highest neutral pass rate in the NFL. Like, they're like, fuck this run game. It sucks. We're going with our 2 best weapons, and that's a good move by them. So I'm all aboard that. Would you? I mean, you could. I don't really think it's much of an upgrade personally. So for kickers, like, I'm fine with it, but I get it. He's been bad for 50 yards like the last year plus. Tucker has been. So you could go Bucker if you really think it's an upgrade. I think it's kind of a wash between those 2 guys. I just think overall, I think the Kansas City offense is better. So if you want to chase that, sure. Like, I'm fine doing that move. Jeremy, would you trade Waddle and Hunter Henry for Brock Bowers? And this is redraft.
Yep.
I'm assuming. Yep.
100%. Actually, we just had an article for biggest buy and biggest sell of the week for Fantasy Pros. I wrote that Hunter Henry was my biggest sell because not that you could get a ton for him, but if people think that this is going to continue and be an every week thing, I got news for you, right? Hunter Henry has done this since he's become a Patriot. He's actually done this his entire career. Some games he's super hot and hyper targeted. Some games he disappears. He's just an above average level talent. He's not a superstar. And because of that, you'll see Jalen Polk games. You'll see Ramondre Stevenson just completely take over. Antonio Gibson will have a game, but this offense is not good enough. Hunter Henry is not good enough to sustain this production. And we're going to see Drake May and others very soon here, just kind of rotating in between May and potentially Baker, rookies getting on the field for that team, and they suck. So all of that combined means I want out on Hunter Henry. If you can get Bowers and you can deal Waddle as well, who should see a downtick for a few weeks, I'm all aboard.
That's the key. Yeah, I'm with you. That's the key. Like without Tua for the next month, like it hurts Waddle the most. So like he's the biggest loser in that offense, right? So yeah, if you could move into Bowers, like you could replace Hunter Henry, like no problem. Like that's that kind of streamable tight end you can do now. Like getting Bowers is a true difference maker. And with how bad tight end is, like, yeah, I'm smashing that. So I'm with you. Interestingly enough, for me, how I'm ranking these wide receivers, if Jordan Love plays, Jaden Reed's going to be my highest wide receiver. If he's not, I'm going back to the Deontay well once again. I am guilty because I don't expect Higgins to play. Then I would have Shakir, then I would have Tyler Johnson and PPR. How do you have these guys ranked?
Yeah, I'm not looking at my rankings just yet. I can, but it's just too many names at the moment. Tyler Johnson's definitely last on this list. Jordan Love has a chance to play, but it depends how mobile he is. I agree with you. If Jordan Love plays, I mean, he's going to be looking for guys who, those quick hitters, and that's going to be Jaden Reed all day. So I think Reed's the clear one if Love plays. If he doesn't, I think it's between Deontay and Shakir. Shakir's just being peppered with targets as much as one can be peppered with targets in a low volume passing offense. But he seems to be the number one guy that Allen looks for, especially when the play breaks down. I might wait a week on Deontay and start Shakir over.
Yeah, that's completely fine. Like I 100% get it. So I think we both agree that like Reed's the top guy if Jordan Love plays because we've seen it. Like he's the most valuable like wide receiver on that offense. I think he's just the best wide receiver they have. So Jordan Love is a healthy, competent quarterback. Like that's really good news for Jaden Reed. So I would actually try to buy low on Jaden Reed because if you don't get him back this week, Love's going to come back next week, right? So then we get Love rest of the season. Jaden Reed will be a riser. So if anyone's worried about Jaden Reed, go get him. So yeah, that's why we're going to be those guys. All right, let's move on to our game 3. This is actually a fun game because it's this Eagles going to the Saints. And boy, let me tell you, the biggest surprise in the NFL is the Saints and that Clint Kubiak offense. Now, with these quarterbacks, are they both top 10 starting options for you this week with Derek Carr and Jalen Hurts?
Derek Carr, by my rankings, is barely a top 10 quarterback at number 10. I want to move him higher. Brock Purdy has a great matchup. Jared Goff has a great matchup. So I have them just above Derek Carr. Feels wrong. Derek Carr's been on fire. I have to give him his flowers. Chris Olave was involved last week, but he could be more involved. We've seen Chris Olave be more involved and be more of an asset. Rashid Shaheed is the truth. We're going to talk about him here in a minute. I mean, that guy just absolutely continues season upon season to level up. He looks great. So yeah, if you want to tell me that Derek Carr is your 7th or 6th ranked quarterback this week, I'm not going to argue with it. Derek Carr in the MVP conversation already early this season.
Yeah, it's been wild. Like I've hated Derek Carr my entire life because of how like mediocre he is compared to his talents. Like the guy has all the arm strength in the world, he just never makes the plays. What Clint Kubiak is doing with these skill position players, he's unlocking that offense of Derek Carr. So like, thank you to Clint Kubiak to making Derek Carr a fun player in the NFL. It's been like a decade since we've seen it. Interesting enough, as we jump into these running backs, I think it's a good time to pivot to this question. Would you trade Kamara for Gibbs in PPR league? Because I think it's a debate between the two of them, but Kamara is just like well and above everybody else in fantasy based on his role, plus how more efficient he is. So would you trade that or you hold on Kamara?
That's really tough, right? You're talking about kind of a concentrated offense versus an offense with a ton of weapons. So we know Gibbs is going to get his. We know he's a top certainly a top 8 to 10 running back every single week. So without fail, but where does AK fall now? He's probably a top 5 guy. So, I mean, Kubiak's scheming it up. Like I said, we're only throwing the ball to Olave and Shaheed outside of Kamara. And here's the New Orleans schedule. This week they play Philly, terrible against pass defense, and they've got injuries. Atlanta, Kansas City, Tampa has injuries. Denver, the Chargers, Carolina, Atlanta again. I mean, for the next until their week 12 bye, at least 2/3 of their games are favorable, not great defenses. The passing game, the pass defense especially isn't great. So I hate this. No, keep Kamara.
Yeah, I think if you go by expected points, they're back to back. Gibbs is actually a little bit better. It's like 20.3 in PPR.
Yeah.
Kamara has 19.9, but Kamara is massively outperforming what he's doing because he doesn't have David Montgomery. I think that's the biggest difference between the two of these guys. Like, he's like, obviously Gibbs is supercharged version of Kamara, like explosive abilities, but like it's just you don't have all the weapons. Like in the Saints, it's a very concentrated, more target distribution with Shaheed, Olave. It's Kamara. Like you could talk yourself into Laporta. You can kind of do it with Montgomery, with on the other side with Detroit. So I'm fine keeping Kamara. I'm just gonna ride the lightning and see how it goes. Yeah. I mean, yeah, like if you can get Brees, like Brees is basic. It's really hard to fade Brees, man. He's incredible. So sure, yeah. It sounds like you really want Gibbs, and if you really want Gibbs, just do the Kamara for Gibbs deal. Like
I have
those guys. Yeah, like I would just do that. Because I don't want to trade Brees personally. Like Brees is just truly special, right? You know what I'm saying? So I would do that. Flowers and Worthy, it's kind of back and forth. Like Worthy's going to be very up and down. Like that's just is what he is. He's not Rice. His role's a little bit more iffy. So if you really just want Gibbs and he's the guy you're targeting, I think you could pivot off of him with Kamara fairly easily, just based on how Kamara is doing. But overall, like rest of the season, they're going to be back to back, both top 5, top 3 running backs for me. So I don't have an issue with that deal.
Yeah, and don't worry about Worthy. We're gonna have to wait and see a week or two what that looks like. But he's a back half of the year kind of guy anyway, just as a rookie wide receiver.
100%. So the where do you have Saquon ranked this week, and where do you have Kamara ranked running back for this game? I'm assuming they're both.
I have them super close. Neither is a top 5 back. I have Kamara at 7. We have some ridiculous. I may need to move Brees down a tick or two because I still have him at 5 against New England. Yeah. But yeah, I have AK at 7 and Barkley at 9. We just have the volume guy, Josh Jacobs, in between them. But the James Cook, Jordan Mason, who's my RB4 this week, those matchups are juicy as hell. So I have those guys a bit higher. But yeah, they're top 10 guys locked in. You're firing them up. They're your RB1 for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting because the Saints defense has been the best against running backs for 2 weeks. They're giving up less than 10 PPR points to the position. Like that's how good they've been. So it really comes a question of Saquon, whose usage, he's RB1. Like it's Saquon versus the worst potential matchup. So we'll see how it goes and they shift it. I mean, obviously the Saints offense has really been so explosive, efficient. It's kind of forces teams to go away from the running backs. We'll see how it happens against this game. This game should be a lot of fireworks. It depends how desperate you are at quarterback. Like we talked about this yesterday. Like Rodgers is a mid-20s quarterback for us. Like he's a quarterback 24, I think, this week, if I remember my rankings. It's just I have concerns about the offense as a whole, where it seems it's Brees. Garrett Wilson's not getting going yet. He will. Overall, like I'm a little bit worried for him. So you could, but it's more of a super flex start for me. If you're starting 2 quarterbacks, then I would be okay starting Rodgers.
And if this is the Fletcher Cox, I understand the Rodgers hate. So just use that and as fuel and sit him on your bench while you watch CJ Stroud go off this week.
And then sack him 5 times. So for these wide receivers in this game, we have a lot of good wide receivers. AJ Brown looks like he's out again, so that sucks. But we have Chris Olave, we have Rashid Shaheed on one side. We had Devonta Smith not playing another for Eagles wide receiver. Like we're not doing it. Where do you have these guys ranked this week?
Yeah, Devonta Smith, love him. It's also a fast track in New Orleans in the Dome. That's nice for him. So it's really hard to fade him. The only issue, of course, is that New Orleans secondary, which has been better than really it should be, Lattimore, et cetera. So I like Devonta Smith, but if we're talking about if we're talking about New Orleans, I have to see. I have Smith at 16. Probably don't have Olave that high. I need to move him up. Olave's in the 20s. I have Rashid Shaheed at 29. So, I think both of those, you got to play all these guys. These guys are at least flex worthy, if not wide receiver 2s.
Yeah, the Eagles defense has been rough. Like we saw at the end of the game. There's serious speed coming down against that defense, and Rashid Shaheed is a game breaker. Like I have him as my wide receiver 24 this week. I was like him or Pittman. I'm like, why would I start Pittman over him? That's just insane. So Yeah, like I have all three of these guys as top 24 wide receivers. Olave is the highest just based on his role, but you could do Devonta Smith. Like he's going to eat in that offense.
Yep. Sorry, Olave at 14. Smith at
There we
16.
go. Now we're
There it
cooking,
is.
baby.
Yep.
Would you make this trade? Pittman and Moss for Brian Robinson and Amari Cooper. I probably would because both Pittman and Cooper have been two of the bigger letdowns. I'm a lot more confident that Cooper can reach his ceiling than I am Pittman personally. And Brian Robinson and Zach Moss, like that's kind of a change. So personally, I'm fine making that deal. What would you do this deal to take on Brian Robinson? I really
It's
just
really,
yeah.
It's really close. I like Brian Robinson. The problem I have with this deal is not the wide receiver side. You're getting probably the better option there. My problem is that you're going from what should be eventually an elite offense in Cincinnati and the clear cut RB1 on that team. He's getting all the run. Chase Brown has been a non-factor. He's not even really on the field much for Cincinnati. So when they get Cook and Moss should as early as this week, because they play each other. Is that right? This week, Cincinnati and Washington. I think that's right. And so Brian Robinson, he's looked great. He's a great back, but he's on an offense that will struggle at times. So it's close for me. I probably keep Moss.
Yeah, the one thing I like is Cliff Kingsbury will always support a running back, and that is once again that's coming to fruition. Okay. So we saw it with his years. Like I like Brian Robinson a little bit better than Zach Moss. I still like the offense is they struggled a lot in Cincinnati. So you're right, it needs to get better. If it does get better, that'll equal them out. So I would just whichever wide receiver you prefer is how I would go in that deal because they're similar bets. I still think Cooper's just a better wide receiver. He's been so abysmal. Like he's been unlucky and all that stuff. So, but yeah, you can go either way. It's just really what you depend on those guys.
I'll change my mind. You convinced me, Jesse.
Let's go.
Get me right.
Okay, this is a monumental trade. ASRB, Jalen Warren, Jerry Jeudy for ETN, Kyron, Jameson Williams. You lost Pacheco and has Connor. You also have Nico and Waddle. Yeah, I mean you got Nico in the bag. That's nice. I have a hard time giving up ASRB here.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about, right? Is Amon-Ra's the clear-cut best player in this deal. Let's remove him. Let's, for a second, which is not true, just say him and Jameson Williams are an equal value. Let's just look at the rest of this trade. We have Jalen Warren and Jerry Jeudy for Etienne and Kyron. I mean, that's a clear-cut win for those backs. So really, it depends on if you think Jameson Williams can keep up this level of production. I get it. I think he can. I think Sam Laporta is the odd man out, and it hurts. I would do it. I would do the deal.
Yeah, because like you said, you lost Pacheco, but you still have James Conner. James Conner's an RB1. Like you have confidence in James Conner. His role's awesome. He's going to be good. Yeah. It really comes down to like how you view Kyron rest of the season. You know me, I'm kind of like the man on ETN. I think he's fine, but I don't think he's going to be a difference maker for you. So yeah, Kyron's a massive upgrade over Jalen Warren. Like I don't want anything in the Steelers offense. Like it is what it is. And then the hard part is giving up Amon-Ra St. Brown, but you do have Nico. The thing with Waddle is what we talked about. Waddle's not as dependable as he's going to be the next month. He's got to do it himself. So, yeah, like I get it. It's just I have a hard time giving up ASRB. The dude's like a top 5 player in fantasy. So anytime you're trading those guys away, you have to be really confident about the side you're getting. So if you're fully confident on that side, you can take it. I'm a little skeptical on Kyron and ETN and JMO. Like his usage is awesome. He's like top 10 wide receiver. I don't know how that's gonna last all season. Yeah, I mean, you dropped J.K. Dobbins. Oh no, dude, my boy, I'm so sorry. Oh, that's rough. We this happens. I cut I cut Kyron a week before last season in a dynasty league. It burned me. I was so pissed watching him just go nuclear against me. I was like, so yeah, sometimes we make bad decisions. And yeah, you can make a package out of. Yeah, you could do that. You could do that too. Like, there's ways to move around your team if you're worried about getting another running back, but. You have James Conner. I don't necessarily think you need another running back. You just need another guy you can count on. So, like, if you want to go get a cheap running back, like we talk about with these dirt cheap RB2 production, like you could do that too and just, fight it through. But if you want, like, ETN, you want Kyron Williams, go get that deal. It's fine. Like, James Williams is awesome. Should be a play for you.
Who's dirt cheap right now is Devin Singletary. You can go out and get him. Who's pretty cheap and shouldn't be, probably Jerome Ford. You can go out and get him. You can even pay up a little bit. I wouldn't pay too much, but you can get Tony Pollard. The usage is there, and he might be someone that you can get for cheaper than you should.
Yeah, I think he's probably the cheapest, like, good running back you're gonna find.
Yeah.
Like, I know the Titans offense kind of sucks, but like Pollard's role is really good. And
Mhm.
as much as like Tajay Spear is still dealing with the injury and he hasn't like they say they want to involve him more, but like it's been 2 weeks, so like we'll see. Maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. Let's talk about do we talk about the wide receivers? I guess we
I
did.
think we're wide receivers. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about them. I mean, we wanted all those guys, start all those guys, all three of them. They're top 24 wide receivers, like we were saying. Tight ends. How are you treating the tight ends? Obviously, I think Dallas Goedert's the one you could start of all of these tight ends. It's still kind of iffy with Dallas Goedert. Without AJB, like I think it helps Dallas Goedert out a lot. He becomes a lot more dependable. Where he's a top 12 tight end for me. I know Aaron hates Goddard, but like it kind of is what it is. On the flip side with the Saints, are you doing Taysom Hill? Are you doing Juwan Johnson? Are you doing any of these guys? Or are you just benching them?
No, one of them is going to score. I don't know who it is. So, no, I'm not doing any of them. Dallas Goedert, against my better judgment, is my tight end 9 this week. I just can't find anyone else to put above him. That's really the only issue. We said it early. We said it earlier this year. You wanted one of those top 6 guys. We were wrong because we should have included Brock Bowers in that mix.
Yes.
But you want one of those top 8 because Kittle has been good and we have the Debo injury already. So really one of those top 8 tight ends you want. Anyone outside the top 8, pass.
Yeah, if you want to go the injured guys, Ferguson and Njoku are the 2 guys that can be top 5-ish tight ends for you. Njoku's gonna eat, like he just got to be healthy. So I would try to go through those cheap tight ends if you're looking for that. Who's ever cheaper? Just get one of those guys on your roster because tight end is a dumpster fire. So you might need like 3 or 4 of those guys to get through the season.
Absolutely.
Let's go to the next game. All right, this game looked exciting early on in the year, and then it turns out the Dolphins are starting Skylar Thompson and. Oof, good luck. I'm sorry, Miami. It kind of is what it is. Going into Seattle. Not to toot my own horn here, but Seahawks might be 3-0 this week, baby. Let's do it. Let's talk about these quarterbacks. How high do you have Geno Smith ranked? And then I already know the answer to this question, but I'm asking anyways. Is there any scenario where you would start Skylar Thompson?
No chance. I'm starting Skylar Thompson. I hope he has a good game. I hope he's ready for the prime time. Maybe he becomes a quarterback you can think about in super flex leagues. I can't do it right now. Absolutely not. I will start literally anyone else over him. I do have him. Nope. I'm going to change that now. I will start him over 3 NFL quarterbacks, and they are named Levis, Bo Nix, and Jacoby Brissett. Outside of that, I did have Willis below him, and I just moved him above him because I can't.
Yeah, you got it.
You're like,
the situation is pretty different, and we've seen it, but it's.
But look, he could absolutely go off. Everything, the whole situation, everything else around him is there. But we saw that with Malik Willis last week. Like, I just don't expect there to be any sort of ceiling. There just literally can't be. But look, best of luck to him. On the other side of that, Geno Smith. Against what has been a pretty decent Dolphins passing D over the first couple of weeks. Geno Smith is still my QB 13. That feels too low. I want to get him in that top 12, but I just can't move Anthony Richardson down any further than I already have.
Yeah, I think the Geno Smith Baker Mayfield discussion this week is a good one. Those guys are paired really well together, where they're both borderline QB1s. Yep. Geno's doing yeoman's work. Like, he's been under a ton of pressure, and he's just been incredible. I think he was the highest rated QB in week 2, based on it was a good defense. Like, they played him well, but he was just on another level. So congrats to Geno. Like, he's carrying the Seahawks, and he's going to do his best work. So like we said it all offseason. Like, Geno was a buy. The Seahawks offense was a buy. That is very much coming to fruition. So hopefully people take advantage of that, and you can get those guys. Let's talk about the running situation. Who do you have ranked higher? Do you have Ramondre Stevenson ranked higher? Or Zach Charbonnet ranked higher because it looks like Ken Walker is going to miss another week?
Yeah, I have Stevenson way down. But sorry, what are we talking about? Are we talking about Miami? So we're talking about who? Achane,
sorry,
right?
That's my fault.
That's my fault. It's all good. So Mostert's likely out. Achane is my RB. You want to take a guess?
It better be high. I'm just going to say that. High.
Yes.
RB4?
2. He's my running back 2 this week.
I'm in my bag right now. Let's go.
I couldn't put him above Bijan. I tried, but I couldn't put him above Bijan. He's my RB2 this week. I would not be shocked at all if he's far and away the RB1 this week, given all the other matchups. He's a stud. You have to just, you're not going to be able to trade for him. try
Oh.
anyway, and try and get Achan any way you can. Beg, borrow, and steal for him. On the other end, yeah, it's going to be Charbonnet. Walker is out at least this week, I think.
Mhm.
Probably next week as well. If they're going to be, especially if they win this week, they'll be 3-0. There's no need to rush Kenneth Walker back. Charbonnet is my RB19 this week.
Yeah, I'm very high on Charbonnet this week. I expect Seahawks to have a lead, and that means they're going to kind of feature him a little more this week. So I'm pushing him into my top 12 running backs this week, just based on with the usage. It's 100% snaps, 100% usage. Like any running back who gets that work, particularly in a good offense, like he can find his way in the end zone multiple times this week, and like he could be very high. I get it. Like it probably makes more sense to have him in the 15 to 20 range, but yeah, like I like the matchup against Miami. Miami's defense is very paper thin at the moment. Like they're gluing it together. So yeah, like we saw James Cook do his thing against them. Would not be surprising to see Charbonnet do his thing against them as well. Are you starting Caleb over Darnold this week? Because I am not. I'm going to roll with Darnold. It's close, but I'm just going to trust Darnold in that offense, which sounds the craziest shenanigans things I've ever said in my life. So it'll probably regret that.
I have Darnold 5 spots ahead of Caleb Williams, and Caleb Williams is going against by all accounts, one of the worst defenses in the league in Indianapolis, who just lost their best player, DeForest Buckner, for, I don't know if it's for the season, but it's at least for a while.
Yeah, it's exciting.
So he should play well. No, I'm starting Sam Darnold.
Yeah, that's like, and the Houston defense is actually really, like, we've seen this Houston defense. They're really good. So this is like, I'm going to bet the over on a Darnold interception. Like, that's what I would do. And then, yeah, I would also expect him to outscore Caleb. Like, they need to figure it out. Like, it might take them a week or two. Based on what we saw in week 2, that stuff was not sustainable. Like, it's the Shane Waldron, it's all the fun stuff. So you could do it with Caleb, but like, I want to see Keenan if he's healthy. That might change it a little bit. So they have all 3 wide receivers. It'll make it a little bit easier on them. We'll see how it goes. But at the moment, yeah, I'm with you. Let's jump into these wide receivers and talk about the wide receivers of this game. So we have some really good wide receiver options on the Seahawks side. We have DK Metcalf. We have JSN. The ghost of Tyler Lockett still there. Not really doing anything for fantasy. And on the flip side, Miami, we have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Like, that's one of the best 1-2 combos in the league. How do you have these guys ranked, and who is your top guy this week?
That's how I feel about it. DK Metcalf, he's questionable. He's going to play. He's just a monster out there. He's my number 1 guy. He's wide receiver 9 for me. I have him like over Marvin Harrison Jr. I just love DK Metcalf. He showed why last week. This offense is only going to improve. He's the guy, which is nice. Tyreek Hill, on the other hand, I can't bring myself to push him out of the top 12 just yet. He's still Tyreek Hill. He can get 2 targets, catch them both for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. So we know he can do this, but you have to push him down the ranks a bit. I did manage to get him in ahead of Malik Neighbors, which feels weird, but that's a weird matchup there in Cleveland. So Tyreek's at 12, and then I have JSN at 25. It's too low. Can't get him any higher. But JSN could have another great week. So yeah, those 3 guys are great. And Waddle is 28, feels too high.
Yeah, it's just is what it is. I think this is in between those 2, yeah, that's what happened if you're deciding between Caleb and Darnold. I was like, okay. I would agree. It's like the interesting thing is Darnold is in the perfect situation and he looks much better. Flip side with Caleb, who's one of the most talented quarterbacks we've seen, and situation's not great because of the system, the scheme, the offensive line, all those issues. So yeah, I feel you. But like with Marvin Harrison Jr., he still only had 4 receptions last week. It's not like he went new. Like, he needs to still show a little bit more if we're going to consistently rank him in the top 12. Like, I think we talked about this early in the offseason. He was overvalued by the fantasy community because we're drafting him at his ceiling. Like, that's kind of is what it is. But I mean,
and in half
PPR
PPR last week, Marvin Harrison was the wide receiver 1. DK Metcalf was the wide receiver 2. So, exactly. We are splitting hairs here. I do have him just based on matchup and my ridiculous blind faith in the Seattle offense this season. DK is my wide receiver 12 for the whole year, which just shows you how high I am on him, or maybe just how high I am this going into this season.
Yeah, the Seahawks also have 3 of the top like defense allowed corners in the league right now. Like, what they're doing in that defense is really good. So I don't know how that I would just literally just bracket Tyreek Hill the entire game. Like I'd be like somebody else has got to beat us about the Seahawks. So
Yeah.
we'll see if that shakes out. But yeah, both those guys are uber talented. So yeah, I think they should all be top 30 wide receivers. Like you'd be happy in John, all of them, and they should be all in your lineup. Even Waddle's a little bit more iffy just because Skylar Thompson, but I want to start JSN. I want DK. I want like Tyreek all in my lineup. The tight ends, are we playing Noah Fant? Are we doing Jonnu Smith? Because we saw the Seahawks absolutely shredded by Hunter Henry last week. So let's are you doing the Jonnu Smith, or are you just gonna like let somebody else play Jonnu Smith this week?
No, I can't. I get it if you have to, if you're hurting. Sure. I don't know where I'm going to rank Jonnu. Right now, he's 19. He probably deserves to be ahead of Cole Kmet. I don't care. No, I don't want anything to do with any of these guys. Noah Fant is buried at 23. No, neither. Pass.
All right, let's play a game. Are you playing Hunter Henry or Jonnu Smith this week?
Hunter Henry is my tight end 12, so far and away. Hunter Henry.
Oh, baby, what time to be alive we are. Yeah, I think that kind of shows you like where it is with Jonnu. I'm a little bit more bullish on Jonnu. I have him back to back 12 and 13, but overall, yeah, I get it. Like it's going to be rough. Like it's not going to be a ton of volume for him. I just think with the Seahawks offense or our defense where they struggled is middle of the field. That's where Jonnu Smith should act. So in theory, it's a good strategy, but in theory, a lot of the time these strategies fall face flat. So I'm with you. Let's go on to our next game, which should be a absolute just barn burner of just beat down for the Rams. San Francisco, the Rams. Let's start with these quarterbacks. Purdy's in a great spot, and Stafford, as good as he is, it's going to be a nightmare situation for him this week. Are you playing? Let me start this. Are you playing Stafford this week? Like, is that in your range of outcomes, or are you trying to bench him?
The Smitty's got it absolutely correct here. He has no weapons. He has no offensive line. It's over for Matt Stafford, at least this week. There's no way I'm playing him. I can't. There's got to be 15, 20 better options. I'm stalling so I can pull up my rankings to see where I actually have him ranked. 21. I have Justin Fields ahead of him against a pretty good Chargers defense because of that floor. I just at 30-10 sounds about right. Stafford's got nothing going on this week.
Yeah, it should be a cakewalk for them. And I get it. Like the 49ers are dealing with a lot of injuries too, but just the talent differential between them is exemplified by the injuries that have hit the Rams compared to the 49ers. Like the 49ers can afford to lose a McCaffrey. You could afford to lose a Debo because you still have two elite other options. You have like the line. Like, so it just is what it is with these two teams. Is Purdy a top 12 guy for you this week, or is he more like quarterback 15?
Number 9 ahead of Derek Carr. This defense for the Rams is atrocious. They don't have any. The only thing they have going is Jared Verse over there, who seems to have a bit of skill rushing the passer. I would hope so. They picked him in the first round. Otherwise, the back end isn't looking good. They were a bit of fool's gold in week 1. We were like, oh, maybe the Rams defense isn't as bad as we thought. Yes, they are. We saw it in week 2. We're going to continue to see it. It's awful for them, and San Francisco is going to eat them alive this week.
Yeah, this is a note from Sleepy where he's deciding between the two quarterbacks. It's like, yeah, it's how it goes. I mean, you need those guys to carry you. So, I mean, Coleman and Pittman is really you're going to need some of those early guys to do the work for you. I mean, it could be done. I'll ask this question. For me, it's CeeDee Lamb. Who's your wide receiver? What is it? Is it anyone else for you?
It was Tyreek. Obviously, that's not the case anymore. It's got to be CD. Yeah, it's got to be.
Yeah, it's just the situation. Everything's still set up for him. Yeah, you should not trust DeAndre Swift. Just like the usage is not there. If it's anybody, it's gonna be Khalil Herbert running all over. Like that's a good point. Dude, it's gross. The line situation's off. You can play, like I'll say you can play him, but like I have zero confidence in it. Like I've seen the DeAndre Swift experience. Like I am terrified of him. He's like my RB31, even in a fantastic matchup. It's so hard to trust that situation in offense. And he's splitting his work. It's just
But he should run all over them like he should, right? So that's the issue that we're having is he won't. I mean, this is yet again another victim of the Philadelphia scheme with Jalen Hurts, the elite rushing quarterback back there. We saw it happen with Miles Sanders when he went to Carolina. We're seeing it happen again with DeAndre Swift. We were warning you all offseason not to go in on DeAndre Swift. That said, he could have a good game. It doesn't matter. If he has a good game and you have him and you want to plug him in as a flex, go ahead. That said, it's not going to happen again. Then you sell his ass. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. This is going back to Detroit with DeAndre Swift. He has all the talent in the world. His processing is his big issue. His vision sucks and it creates issues. particularly he can't decide, make up his mind on holes to read. I know I'm rambling a little bit, so I don't want to talk about this too much. But yeah, like he's a flawed running back, and it's showing up when they paid him up front, like the first running back off the board. I was like, what are we doing here, Chicago? It just doesn't make a lot of sense. Let's go back to the game we're talking about here. With the running backs, how high is Jordan Mason and how low is Kyren Williams for this week?
We'll start with Kyren. I need to find him. Scrolling.
That's not good.
Kyren is my RB 30 this week. I have him below a ton of guys. He shouldn't be below, like Javonte Williams, Zamir White in a good matchup. It's just stupid for Kyren this week. Awesome front. Their line has been bad. He might be necessary. He might get all the volume. Yeah. The problem is I just think San Francisco is going to be out to a lead. They're not going to be able to use him a ton. Look, he can make me eat my words here and be used heavily in the passing game. They might need to. That said, obviously, I don't want anything to do with Kyren Williams this week. On the other side, Jordan Mason, my RB4 this week. He is going off.
Yeah, he just fits like a glove in that offense, man. It's so nice watching him just run downhill and punish dudes. Expect heavy workload for him. No one else is getting touches. I think, to your point, though, Kyren's going to be a focal point of the offense, and he's going to get volume. And if he gets the volume, like I think he'll be like he's an RB2 for me. He's like RB20. Like I'm lower on him, but like I'm not that low. Like there's no way I'm starting Zamir. Like not a chance. Like I would never do that. I'd be like, not doing it. You guys, all right? Because I think Zamir White just is not good. Is my issue with that. So like
that's true.
So like if I'm in that situation, they're splitting work. Like no thanks. But yeah, you guys could do it. Like if you want to do it, I'm clearing myself from that. Like,
so all right. Well, but here's the thing, right? And we just talked about Swift going up against a really bad Indy D who just lost their centerpiece. Well, Zamir is going up against an even worse Carolina D who just lost their centerpiece and Derek Brown. I mean, it's horrible for Carolina. I don't know that Andy Dalton makes it a ton better. We know that the Raiders are going to be in this game. I have Zamir ranked the highest of these three. I'm not happy about it. I'm not proud of that. But yeah, I think just because of the variance and the upside, I might go Kyren here. Because those other guys suck.
Yeah, it's really tough. Swift has talent. Like I think he's more talented. This is kind of the Georgia running back thing, but yeah, I still have Kyren clearly above those guys. But yeah,
I get it.
If you want to do it, you can talk yourself into those situations to get a matchup. Like that's kind of what depended. By the way, they've given up the second most points to running backs. Only the Cowboys have given more, which is a crazy stat. So yeah, Carolina's been rough. You want to start players against Carolina. Their defense is atrocious. So I get it, but there just comes a point where it's a tipping point. It's a little bit too much. It's like I can't do it with Kyren. I think he's too good. He's gonna get volume. But yeah, like it could be a situation in the third quarter. They're down 25 points. This game's over. They pull a starters, and then they go to Blake Corum. Like that's entirely in the range of outcomes. So if you're worried about that, go with the other guys. I'm just gonna ride with Kyren personally. But yeah, you can do it. This is one of the fun dilemmas about fantasy where like you kind of try to play the game script out. And then also like this happens all the time. We're wrong with these game scripts. Like it was a Derrick Henry game script. No, it wasn't. They lost that game. So it kind of happens. This is the interesting and fun thing we do every week with these games. Let's talk about the wide receivers. The ghosts of whatever's going on with the Rams. You starting any of those guys, DeMarcus Robinson maybe. And on the 49ers, how high are we ranking Brandon Ayuk and any other 49er wide receiver are we going to play this week?
Ayuk's probably not high enough. He's my wide receiver 15. I'll take it though. He's pushing wide receiver 12 status just because there's nothing else. I think Kittle is the guy who probably benefits a little bit more. Ayuk is taking a while to ramp up. So I'm slightly hedging with my wide receiver 15, but he should eat in this game. On the other side, yeah, I love DeMarcus Robinson because he was the third option and because they had two elite wide receivers ahead of him. Now he's the best wide receiver. And he's going to see all the coverage. That scares the crap out of me. DeMarcus Robinson is my wide receiver 38, and I'm worried about him being that high.
Yeah. Is he the only other wide receiver you're playing in here?
Yeah. I mean, who? Tyler Johnson, maybe. Whittington. Look, these guys are interesting, like grab and stash off the waiver wire guys. But there's no way in hell I'm playing them unless they show me for like multiple weeks that they can get it done. If Whittington truly has that Cooper Kupp role, he's in there on 100% of snaps, and he's looking like that first option on crossers. Great, then I'll give him a shot. But yeah, go get him on, put him on the end of your bench right now. But otherwise, no, I'm not starting
Yeah,
him
I
this week.
think if I'm playing another wide receiver in this game, it's Juwan Jennings. Like that's the other wide receiver I would play.
Yes,
But like I really don't want to play Jennings. He's my wide receiver 49. Feels a little
46.
bullish, but like it's like the 49ers are gonna eat, man. And he could easily get 5 receptions, get himself a touchdown, have a nice day. So overall, yeah. Robinson is 29. Safe to assume he's not going to actually
Yeah.
be good, right?
Well, let me take this. The issue with this is no, he shouldn't be good. The problem is Matthew Stafford is amazing. And he just had a rapport with him at the end of last year. We saw it develop. We knew they had that going into this season, but now down 2 other guys. If DeMarcus is your number 1 target, he might get fed, but he might just not be open. If he's doubled, he's going to be completely erased. The San Francisco has the luxury of being able to do that because there's nobody else to worry about on this offense. So, it's trouble for DeMarcus this week.
Yeah, he's the guy that had the role going into the year. Like we don't have to project a role for him. I know people are doing it with Whittington, but like, dude, Whittington has a terrible profile coming out as a rookie. I know he got hyped, but I'd rather go Tutu Atwell if I'm doing that over Whittington. So I think we're getting really bullish with Whittington, and I'm like, dog, I need to see it because he did nothing in week 2, nothing in week 1. So personally, I'm just letting other people go with that. Like I think Robinson's the only guy really, but like it's just we're lower on the Rams this week. It just is what it is. Like they don't have the firepower to compete. So like we're just pushing them down across the board. It's unfortunate. Speaking of fun tight end options, the Rams have one. Let's talk about the 49ers though. How high is Kittle? Because Kittle seems like an absolute smash this week.
Yeah, 3. I have him above Sam Laporta, who hasn't really done it. Dalton Kincaid, who hasn't done it at all. Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce. So yeah, Kittle's my 3. I only have Bowers and McBride ahead of him. He's got a great matchup. Doesn't have to compete with Deebo Samuel this week. So yeah, fire him up with confidence for sure.
Yeah, and then Parkinson, I have him at tight end 16. You could talk yourself into Parkinson. I was kind of talking to myself a bit earlier in the year about it anyway, so this is kind of going on my priors. Are you willing to fire up Parkinson as a desperation tight end play this week?
Yes, I literally just moved him up before you said that sentence to tight end 16. And Ferguson's probably not going to play, so he's probably going to be tight end 15 when it's all said and done. So
sorry, bro.
It is
sorry, I had to say it. I couldn't resist.
Tresner, we're sorry to lose you. This is the state of the tight end situation.
We'll earn you back when he gets that touchdown this week. We'll earn you back. Yeah, if Deontay has a blow-up game, you could sell high. I don't know how high you're going to sell because people need to see it twice. They don't need to see it once. Need to see it twice. People are like, oh, it's a fluke with any Dalton. If he does it twice, I think you could quote-unquote sell high, but you could try, man. No, I would start Ramondre over Kyron this week. Ramondre has the best. I'm gonna say this again. Ramondre has the best role in fantasy football right now through 2 weeks. Like the best role. Like I'm starting Ramondre. Terrible offense. I don't even care, man. Like I'm just starting Ramondre.
And tough matchup, and it's still Ramondre.
Yeah. Kyron can't do it all by himself. He's not freaking Saquon Barkley. Like he needs a little bit of help. You know what I'm saying? So it is what it is. Let's move along here because we are dragging the show along. Yes, Baltimore versus the Cowboys. What seemed like an exciting matchup. Baltimore's all over the place. Where is Lamar and where are Dak for you in your rankings this week?
Yeah, Dak's QB 14. He just doesn't have the weapons. He was throwing something like 6 or 8 targets. I think it was 6 receptions. So I think it was 8 targets to Jalen Tolbert last week. Ferguson is still going to be out in this game. They do not know how to use their running backs in the passing game. Cooks was around. At least he was out there. You don't want to start him for fantasy, but Dak just doesn't have it outside of CeeDee Lamb, unfortunately. So he's my QB 14. On the flip side, Lamar, I really want to rank him higher, but I can't get him beyond QB 6. The thing is that Dallas defense has looked bad over the first few weeks. I don't know if it's like getting used to Mike Zimmer's system or just the games they've been playing, but they just haven't been able to put it together, and they're leaky as hell. So I think Lamar finds lots of space and is able to run around at will once again this game.
Yeah, I think Dallas's defense has been surprisingly really, really bad. Like we were excited for the defense here. It's been a dumpster fire in Dallas, and they got absolutely obliterated last week. So they're going to be motivated, but the thing is Lamar Jackson. I worry about the offensive line. Like that's the biggest consistency with Baltimore. It's god awful right now. So Lamar's got to do it himself. But like, it's so hard to rank Lamar outside the top 6. Like he's just that valuable. And Dak, I think the matchup against Baltimore is like surprisingly good, so I don't mind going with Dak. But yeah, he's like QB12 for me this week. I'm a little bit lower on him, so I'm with you. The running backs and the quote unquote Derrick Henry, who we thought was going to be really good this year, who has not been very good this year. And on the flip side, the dumpster fire that is Dallas. Even though if I'm going with any one of those running backs, Rico Dowdle saw an increase in production, and they're kind of moving away from Zeke. So I want the younger running back in that offense. Like if I'm starting any one of those guys, it's Rico Dowdle. Like I still have concerns against Baltimore, but it could be a good game for them. Like, is this the game we get Henry going though, or are we just like I don't know what to do with Derrick Henry anymore?
I don't know what to do with Derrick Henry right now. It's look, it's not winter. Winter is coming, but winter is not here yet. We know Derrick Henry will become a White Walker soon enough, but it's not happening just yet for him. He needs to get a little bit more acclimated. They need to figure out exactly how to use them. Lamar needs to be a little bit better, just kind of, with the read option and deciding to actually give it to Henry a little bit more. But the real issue is this offensive line in Baltimore. They're struggling. They are not what they were a year ago because they've lost some key pieces. So that's the issue that I'm having. But it's Dallas. So he's a top 10 back for me. He's number 10.
Get right game, baby. Yeah, like that's the thing. Like he could smash this week. If he doesn't smash this week, I'm already concerned about Henry. I'm going to be like shaking in my boots about Henry because I'm like, dude, you're getting good matchups. Like I know the Raiders have a good D line, but like it should have been a lot better for them. So this is like what we call a get right game. So hopefully it gets right for him. Like I won't be so desperately worried because the thing about Henry is he's still good yards after contact. It's just the yards before contact that sucks.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good running back route to have. I don't hate that at all. Let's go to the wide receivers. We already talked about CeeDee Lamb and how amazing CeeDee Lamb is and how good he should be this week. What I think with Jalen Tolbert, are you going to rank him above Cooks, or are you still going to like have Cooks above Tolbert for this week?
No, I have to rank him above Cooks. The problem is I'll be shocked if I have Cooks in my top 60. Oh, I do. He's 58. So yeah, Cooks. I'm done with Cooks. Tolbert. That's an interesting question. Tolbert is far too low. Oh, he's in the 70s. No, I got to move him up. Yeah, he'll be above Cooks, I think, but I just don't want many pieces of this. I don't care. It's CeeDee Lamb and no one else.
Yes.
And we know Baltimore has a good secondary as well. So they're going to try to take away CeeDee. There'll be other guys open. But, we saw this with Philadelphia last week, right? Who'd they turn to in their time of need? Britton Covey, right? So these teams are just pulling these guys out of the woodwork and just throwing them on the field and giving them 10 targets. So, will I be surprised if Jalen Tolbert does nothing this week? No. It could very well be Cavante Turpin week, and he gets 7 screen passes and takes one to the house. So no, I can't rely on either of these guys, unfortunately.
All right, let me ask you this question to show you where Rashad Bateman is at. Rashad Bateman or Jalen Tolbert this week?
Jalen Tolbert, like by a lot.
Oh, Bateman's down so bad.
Yeah, the answer is Isaiah Likely there, which we'll get to in a minute. But Isaiah Likely is the guy that I want, that I'll rely on as the number 3 in the passing game. There's no way in hell I'm rolling out Rashad Bateman, that's for sure.
And how high do you have Zay Flowers this week?
Zay's my guy. He's at 19. I can't get him higher than that. He didn't do it for me week 1 when I had him ranked as a top 12 wide receiver. I don't remember where he came in week 2, but I think he finished as a top 12 wide receiver because he absolutely went off. I'm checking it now. He was wide receiver 11.5 PPR. So Zay came through last week, but it was against the Raiders. Here he's got a tougher matchup against Dallas in theory. We'll see if that actually materializes. But I like the tight ends a little bit better this week for Baltimore.
Yeah, Zay has a top 10 role through 2 weeks in the NFL as far as expected usage. He's been awesome. So I'm really buying into the year 2 with Zay Flowers. I think they're kind of gonna have to force feed him it, so it should be a lot of fun. Now with these tight ends, are you gonna play any Dallas tight end this week? If Ferguson does not go, or are you just gonna skip it? Because I know we talked about Shoemaker and stuff like that. Yeah.
Who would it be? That's the problem. It's Shoemaker. The other guys out there running routes, whose name is not failing me because I don't know it. It's the other guy who's out there running routes. Who cares? Shoemaker, I think, had 5 receptions last week. Fine, but yeah, I'm not chasing that production at all.
Yeah, it's not pretty, man. They have like Brevin Spanford, who's a rookie, he's a blocking tight end, and John Stevens, who I don't even know who John Stevens is. So that tells you like how desperate it is there. For the Baltimore tight ends, are you worried Likely because his role dramatically decreased in role 2? Or are you firing up Likely again and willing to trust it? Because I mean, we know Andrews is going to be a top 7 tight end each week. That's kind of is what it is with him. So where are you at with Likely?
Yeah, I'm firing him up. He's my tight end 10. A lot of that has to do with whatever the heck that is behind him with Ertz and Henry and Gesicki and Pat Fryermuth. But yeah, he's my tight end 10. I just think that he does have a role. It's just game script dependent. I think what one thing, if nothing else, hopefully, likely, or rather the game last week where they lost to the Raiders proved that they need to use Isaiah Likely more and Mark Andrews. Andrews is 6, Likely is 10, and the closest Dallas tight end is Ferguson at 15, but he's not going to play.
Would you play? This is a good question. Would you play Likely over Kincaid this week? Because I would not, but would you?
No. Kincaid is above Andrews for me this week at 5. Jacksonville is atrocious in all phases: offense, defense, probably special teams. Yes, you can play Dalton Kincaid this week, but he hasn't done it yet. So I get it.
Yeah.
I get the trepidation.
He needs to get a little bit better. He was by Dynasty by low, so live up to it, Kincaid. Do your thing. Are you playing? I'm starting Pickens. Are you playing Pittman over Pickens, or are you going with Pickens?
No, you got to go Pickens. Pittman is dead to me because he's dead to Anthony Richardson, because throwing the football with accuracy is dead to Anthony Richardson. Yeah, you're literally 50-50. So is Anthony Richardson's a ball from Anthony Richardson. It's literally 50-50 whether that ball is going to be on target or not. So yeah, give me Pickens.
Anthony Richardson is Uncle Rico from Napoleon Dynamite. He's like, I can chuck a pigskin a quarter of a mile, and he does. And the problem is, dude, take the easy throw to Pittman, dog. Like, it's so much easier. He's like, no. Yeah, Schoonmaker is he's just yeah, exactly. So it's interesting. Let's move on to our next game because we are going through these. This is gonna be a fun game. Two of the better offenses in the NFL. Detroit going to Arizona.
All right.
How high is Kyler Murray, and is Jared Goff a top 12 option this week for you against Arizona?
Yeah, the Arizona defense has actually looked really good. Hate that. I hate how good they seem to be in turnaround. This is the real test, though, right? Because Detroit, we know that they're clicking on all cylinders. Their offensive line is great. They have all the weapons. They are going to be able to air it out against Arizona. Can that young Cardinals defense hold up? I think the answer is no. I have Kyler Murray because of his rushing as my QB4. I have Jared Goff as my QB8. Like you said, fireworks. I think these guys are both coming off this week.
Yes, start both of them. If you have, this is a good problem to have if you're signing two guys. Like I have them in one of my dynasty leagues, and yeah, we fire up Kyler every week. We don't even play this game. Sorry, Jared Goff. Kyler's too good. All right, here's a fun question: who are you sitting between Olave, Ayuk, Wilson? I'm assuming it's Garrett Wilson and Nico Collins.
Well, you're not sitting Nico Collins ever. No. He's proven that to everyone this over the last 2 weeks, and he gets a nice little matchup as well. You can't sit Olave this week. He's my wide receiver 14. Ayuk's my wide receiver 15. Garrett Wilson's my 7 because he's Garrett Wilson and because he should get all the targets. It's really hard.
He's got a good tough matchup.
Really hard. I would either sit Wilson or Olave, and that's a really tough decision for me.
I think I'm gonna sit Garrett Wilson this week, or like personally, like I think Ayuk should smash. So I don't say Ayuk, but I think it's Olave or Wilson. You kind of have to make the decision. Even though Olave is in such a great offense, man, it's really hard to bench him. So personally, for me, it's really Wilson. But you do either one.
I get it.
Would you do this trading away J.K. Dobbins and Kincaid for Ramondre and McBride? Yes, I would do that. Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Yes, McBride. McBride's the sure thing at tight end. We're projecting with Kincaid. I view Ramondre better as J.K. Dobbins rest of the season, and that might be hot take and spicy, but like it's so hard for Dobbins to do this week in and week out, and he could prove me wrong. Like I'll just die on that hill, I guess. But he's got to increase his role. So yeah,
Jesse will be proved wrong. J.K. Dobbins is awesome.
He's incredible.
The only thing that's stopping him is injury. He's the most efficient running back of all time. So J.K. Dobbins. But I'm doing that deal so that I can get Trey McBride.
Yes, McBride's the key piece. I think, you want all those guys. Like that's a good position to be. All right, running backs. How high do you have these guys ranked? Is Jahmyr Gibbs your RB1 or is it James Conner this week? And where do you have David Montgomery?
James Conner, RB1. No, Gibbs is my RB3 on the week. James Conner is an RB1, but he's my RB12. Again, I think fireworks. Gibbs is going to be awesome. Monty's my RB18, so he's clearly, if you have Gibbs and Monty, fire them both up. Go for it. We're just banging on all cylinders with the running backs here.
Yeah, and from the previous question, yeah, like watch Nico. If it like the injury's worse, you could bench him. But if he's playing, dude, I have a hard time benching him. It's just is what it is. Yes, that's is what it is. J.K. Dobbins, we finally get him, and it's I don't want to sit him. I'm just if you have better options, that's my whole thing. Like I want him on my rosters. I just don't want to fire him up as like the overall RB1 type stuff, which it seems like we're doing with him. All right, let's talk about these wide receivers. Marvin Harrison Jr. or Amon-Ra St. Brown this week. Who do you have higher? And then Jameson Williams. Where is Jameson Williams in the rankings? Because he's been incredible.
Yeah, he needs to be higher. All right, let's start with JMO. Let's start with JMO. Have him at wide receiver 20. Feels wrong. You're still starting him, right? Like he's at worst a flex option, if not your wide receiver 2 on every team that you have. So you're playing him. I need to figure out if I need to move him up is my issue. Going to the other guys, Marvin Harrison is lock, especially after last week. He's my wide receiver 10 this week. And then going further up, Amon-Ra, my wide receiver 4. Don't be scared of his injury. He is one of the toughest guys in the game. He's going to play. And he already practiced in full yesterday because he's an animal. So Amon-Ra is going to eat. How many targets did he have last week?
19.
19. I don't expect 19 targets, but 15 targets, 14.
I'll take it. Yeah. By the way, Amon-Ra's my wide receiver 1 this week. I don't trust him against fast defense.
I love it.
Yeah, I'm on board. So I just moved James Williams above DJ Moore for wide receiver 16. Let's ride, baby. It's gonna be fireworks for those guys. I'm excited. Tight ends, Trey McBride. We would love Trey McBride. Where are we at Sam Laporta this week? How low are you on Sam Laporta? Because it is a little bit concerning with Jameson Williams. Like I am a little bit worried with Sam Laporta. Like I would tell.
Yeah, Sam Laporta is still my tight end 4 this week. I can't push him down below the unproven Kincaid or Andrews and Kelsey in weird matchups with weird usage. That said, I am hopeful that Laporta goes off this week because I want to sell the hell out of him on all of my teams. It's looking like Jameson Williams is the real deal. That means that Laporta is toast and the 4th option most weeks. You just don't know when you're going to be able to start him. Trey McBride is my tight end 2 this week in a phenomenal matchup, obviously. So you fire him up, and you fire him up every week. He is necessary for that offense. Kyler was cooking last week, man.
It's glorious. And hey, thanks for joining us, a wizard. Kyron Godwin today for Brees, Ridley, and Zach. I mean, it's tough trade Godwin, but like you got Brees.
You got Brees.
It's never
Ridley's been
never
awesome. I like it.
And you get Zach Moss, so you can plug and play. You just need Godwin to not run so freaking hot. He's running like the most efficient wide receiver in the NFL with a top 10 role. Like Godwin's been incredible. I think he will be too. So I'm not worried about Kyron. I'm worried about Godwin in that deal. But you got Brees, so like don't worry about it. It's fine. So like let's move on to our final game. Sorry, I'm stalling here because I'm rolling through these questions and comments since we have a lot of them today.
Yeah, I get that feeling about JK, and that may be true. But the thing that you need to know about Dobbins is that it doesn't matter right now because he's healthy and he's absolutely murdering teams, and they just keep giving him the football. This is what they're doing with Josh Jacobs, which feels wrong in Green Bay with Jordan Love out. But now Justin Herbert is a little banged up. They're just going to keep giving the football to J.K. Dobbins, and they're giving him in high leverage situations where he can be efficient. And they're just giving Gus Edwards that grunt work. So keep firing up J.K.
If you're worried about Dobbins, go stash Kamani Vidal because Gus Edwards has been really bad in his role. And the way it's going to work is at some point they're going to start giving Kamani Vidal work because you can't be that bad for Gus Edwards. Like it's just it's been
Hassan Haskins is getting carries. That's just one thing to consider. He's a Michigan / Jim Harbaugh guy. One thing to be concerned about with Vidal. Just cross your fingers and pray for JK.
You need continued health. Yeah, it's gross. I don't know how high his role and usage will go because I think they want to keep him healthy the entire year. That's kind of my concern with him. If he didn't have that issue, I'd be like, fire him up all over the place. Well, the thing we talked about this all year is Godwin is going to be really good. He's in the slot, and he's living in the slot, and he's eating because that's what Godwin does in the slot. He's one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. All right, so let's move on to our final game because otherwise this is going to take us hour 30. Chiefs going to the Falcons. Where is Patrick Mahomes on your quarterback rankings, and are you firing up Kirk Cousins this week against Chiefs defense that looked not as great against Burrow in week 2?
Sadly, yes, I'm playing Kirk Cousins. It looked like week one was just an anomaly. The KCD, we know that they're going to have a few down weeks here and there, but it's really, their defense as a whole. Is it Gunther Cunningham over there? I feel like I thought this last week, and then of course not. No, Steve Spagnuolo. I don't know why I had Gunther Cunningham's name on my mind
way back machine, yeah.
from years ago. No, Steve Spagnuolo over there, and he's the best. He is the best, I think, right now. And he's proving that he does need players. The KCD keeps showing up. So Cousins is my QB 16, but Patrick Mahomes my QB 3. They are not going to run the ball as much as people think, especially this week. You're going to get a ton of screens. Miko Hardman could be involved. You're going to get a ton of screens to Rashee Rice, to Xavier Worthy. They're going to scheme some crap up. Hey, Travis Kelce might actually be relevant this week.
Kelce lives. Let's talk about these running backs and how much issue the Kansas City backfield is going to be. There was an interview this week where they're talking to Carson Steele. He talks about they're going to share it around. So FYI, no one's getting all the usage this week. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be split with P. Ryan. They'll probably have somebody else stepping in. I don't think Kareem Hunt's on the active roster yet, so I don't think he's going to be healthy playing this week. But it just seems like it's going to be a motley crew of guys. So, Steele is going to get the goal line work probably. But I would bet on Steele over P. Ryan. We've done this P. Ryan thing a lot. I think, to your point, they're going to give the passing targets to the more valuable, wide receiver tight ends that they have, as opposed to P. Ryan. But yeah, he's like a floor play. I don't mind it. Where do you have these guys ranked? And then the Falcons, how high is Bijan? Or where are you at with Bijan?
Yeah. Well, I totally agree with you with KC. I got both of these guys in the 30s. That's Steele and P. Ryan. CEH is going to come back at some point. I think he's on the pup at the moment. And then, of course, you got Kareem Hunt, who no NFL team wanted anything to do with. He was on, I think Cleveland cut him very early in the offseason, and he just stayed with very little activity from teams all offseason. So no, I'm not playing the Kareem Hunt game as well. Listen, the guy that I think you might want to go out and out of your way to maybe at least stash, who might have a role in this offense, is Noah Gray. Noah Gray has looked really good in spot duty. He's not going to be elite for you, but he could have a lot more playing time and a lot more field usage. Maybe they go to 2 tight ends. Maybe they split things out. Justin Watson's been involved as well. So that's a long way of saying, no, do not start a Kansas City running back, even if they're playing the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, I think if you're deciding between Steele or P. Ryan, which way are you going between the two of them? Obviously, we're lower on them this week just because we don't know how it's going to go. I think I'm leaning towards Steele. Yeah, I think I would too. But we're talking flex range running back. We're not talking about you got to start these guys because they're going to divvy up Pacheco's work. Pacheco was a top 10 running back in usage and expected work. That's not going to happen between these guys. So see how it goes. If you want to stash Keontae Ingram, they picked him up as well. You can just stash all these guys, see how it works out. I don't expect anyone to get the majority of the work there. And with Atlanta, it's Bijan. You got to trust him. I think I saw a stat. He has 1,900 yards projected and no touchdowns. So it's really good with Bijan.
Yeah. Ridiculous. Number 1 in my ranks this week against KC. Ooh. They are going to feed him the football, and they should.
I love that. That is nice. I did not expect to have him there. What's interesting is the Chiefs have been really good against running backs, and obviously this is Bijan. This is a whole nother level. The O-line needs to hold up. That D-line in Kansas City is no joke. They've been really good. Chris Jones is a terror and stuff like that. So we'll see. But it makes sense. Get your good guys the ball. So give Bijan the ball. Give Drake London the ball. Give Kyle Pitts the ball, even though I don't think it's really happening with Kyle Pitts this year. But we talk about that in a second. With your wide receivers in this game, is Rashee Rice the highest? And then where do you rank London and Worthy and any other guy in this game? Darnell Mooney or freaking whatever his name is, Ray McLeod for the Falcons.
Yeah. Is Rashee Rice the highest? Rashee Rice is my wide receiver 6 this week. He's just going to do it again. There's Xavier Worthy is going to have his up and down games. He looks like he's a supreme talent. He's linked to Patrick Mahomes. It's great. We just don't know how up and down he's going to be week to week. He's a flex guy. Rashee Rice is locked in as your wide receiver 1 on almost every team you don't have Amon-Ra or CD or Justin Jefferson on. So Rashee Rice, yeah, absolutely. You have to fire him up and start him. If I'm looking at the rest of this game, like Drake London, who I am in love with, I had to push him down to wide receiver 21 this week. He got lucky, bailed out, scored a touchdown. I think they throw it around, but I'm going to give a little bit of that to Kyle Pitts. Cousins just isn't really capable of the 300-yard game anymore. We saw that decline kind of last year. And without Justin Jefferson, getting to multiple touchdowns could be a chore for him weekly. I think he's got 2 touchdown games in him all year, but a 3 touchdown seems like supreme upside from him, unless they start getting Bijan the ball 8 or 9 times a game as opposed to just 5 in the passing game.
Yeah, I mean, it helps having Bijan. He's like the easy button in that offense because like he could just do everything for him. He's one of the best running backs in the NFL. Still want to see his like usage and workload increase. So like it can go up for him, like based on what he's done. So I think he's a really, really good player. But yeah, I'm with you on that. The tight ends, where are you ranking? Or actually, sorry, let me ask this question. Where's Xavier Worthy for you? Since we didn't answer that, where is he in your rankings?
Hang on, I just clicked off. I got to go back. Probably low. I just think it's going to be hit or miss with him. We saw him score 2 touchdowns in week 1. We saw him pretty much disappear in week 2. I like him. He's still kind of a back end wide receiver 3 for me. So he's in the low 30s. He's the 31. I don't mind that. Actually, I got to push him down because I had him below Brian Thomas or above Brian Thomas. Now he's below Brian Thomas Jr., who I will continue to take the L on all season because he's just a phenomenal talent. But yeah, I got guys like Calvin Ridley, Rashid Shaheed, of course, and even Jalen Waddle ahead of Worthy this week.
Yeah, this tells you how bad it's been for London and Pitts and all those guys. I mean, we saw the light turn on with Kirk in that 2-minute drive where it's like, oh, it's there. Like the talent and skill is still there with Cousins. So hopefully that kickstarts the offense to look a little better because the first 90 minutes and plus for the first 2 games, like just rough, man. So hopefully we see that like it gets going a little bit more. This KC defense is a challenge, so we'll see if it works out. But I mean, with Kyle Pitts and Travis Kelce, they're just 2 underperforming tight ends right now. So talk about tight ends. Where do you have them ranked, and who are you starting? Are you starting Kelce over Pitts or Pitts over Kelce this week?
Have them back to back. They're 7 and 8 this week. Yeah, it's probably still Travis Kelce, although it is a question. It's a legitimate question who you would start here. I do not mind starting Pitts. Again, that KCD is good. There's only a few weapons that you really have to worry about. And those linebackers are something else there at KC. And they fly around the field. Drew Tranquil has just kind of been transformed. Leo Chenal and, of course, Nick Bolton. I mean, those guys are awesome back there. So I will give the edge to Kelce over Pitts because of that. But, yeah, I mean, flip a coin.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks, but it's a good problem to have if you're signing these guys. You have 2 of the better tight ends in the NFL. And if, like we talk about with Kelce, the usage increases, we'll be fine. It's just Pitts has seen like 6% first 3 targets. That's got to increase, dude. That's like unsustainable. You're just going to be stuck in the land of just awfulness. But yeah, I think that is going to sum up our week 3 NFC games. I want to thank everyone for joining us because we're supposed to do this an hour. We're pushing 80 minutes here. So we appreciate all the comments and questions, though. It makes it very entertaining. So we appreciate you guys. If you guys haven't liked and subscribed, please, it helps us. And comment below if you want to see anything else from us. But we will be dropping we don't have anything scheduled for tomorrow, I don't think, except SCW Dive. We'll be doing our Sit Start show on Sunday. So, if you have any questions, go to our Facebook, go to our Twitter or go to Reddit and post the comments in there.
Or what?
Sitting and starting. I'm back in 2012 at this point. And we'll answer those live on our Sit Start show on Sunday. We might be starting a little half hour early for that just to get everything going. But anyways, we'll look forward to seeing you all Sunday. So for Jeremy, myself, I want to thank you all for joining us. And yeah, we'll see you later this week. So take care, folks.